Where is this happiness, this nebulous term? You know, it's the most overused word in the world right now. In fact, if you go to Google and you type how to be, guess what the first drop down is? Happy. By the way, number 2, 3, and 4 are rich, pretty, and real estate agent. No wonder there's this big happiness industry. We want it more than anything else, but it ain't that easy to find.
He's a Harvard MBA, a New York Times best-selling author, award-winning blogger, and one of the most popular TED speakers in the world.
Good afternoon, everybody.
Neil has spoken to hundreds and thousands of people all over the world.
He spent a decade as director of leadership inside Walmart.
And his work has been seen everywhere from CNN to BBC. The list goes on and on.
What a joy this is to be at Google today. Where did this all begin? For me, honestly, it starts about 50 years ago. My mom is from Nairobi, Kenya. My dad is from a small village outside of Amritsar, India. And they came here in the late 1960s. My parents gave my sister and I a great life. And they also filled our heads with this model. If you do great work, then you'll have a big success, and then you'll be happy. Does this sound familiar to anybody? We tell our kids this. If you study really hard, then you'll get straight A's, and if you're East Indian, you'll become a doctor. If you work really hard, then you get promoted, and then you're happy. But it doesn't work like that. Our model for how we think about happiness is totally backwards.
One of the most popular TED speakers of all time,
the author of The Book of Awesome.
More than 1 million copies worldwide.
Best-selling author of The Happiness Equation.
There's a book that will change how you think about everything.
Yeah, but we know how to get it. We know what to do. Remember I said I went through over 300 positive psychology studies? I did not do that for fun. It was the worst thing I've ever done. But what I did for you guys today is I pulled out the 5 big ones. From those 300, I pulled out the 5 super studies. Here's the thing I want to say to you all, is if you can commit to doing something I call the 20 for 20 challenge, which is where you pick one of these 5 things I'm about to talk about, and you say, I'm going to do that in the morning for 20 minutes a day, for 20 days in a row, about 3 weeks to develop a habit, I've soaked into my DNA a happiness practice that will be harder to get out of now. You just think to yourself, could I pick one of these things? So here are the big 5 super studies. Journaling. Sounds strange, doesn't it? Like you go home, you pull out a notepad, you got a pen, you're like, I had some delicious fried okra in Memphis. It was a fantastic day. Someone handed me a pack of M&Ms as I walked in here. You know, I left inspired and I caught my flight home. It was a fantastic evening. Journaling. Writing down a positive experience about your day at the end of the day. I gotta admit, I'm a bit of a cheapskate. My mama didn't raise no fool, so I'd walk into a Barnes & Noble, and you know what I'd think? That wall of journals at the front door, that's a ripoff. That's a bunch of blank paper someone stapled together with a picture of a cat for 20 bucks. I'm not buying that. I'm not buying that stuff. Then my publisher calls me. You know what happens? The moment of truth. She's like, Neil, guess what? We're gonna do the Journal of Awesome. I said, what are you talking about? She's like, we're going to take the Book of Awesome logo from the front of your book, slap it on a bunch of blank paper, staple it together. We're going to sell it for 20 bucks. I'm like, Mama didn't raise no fool, let's do it. Why do I tell you that story? I'll be honest with you, I've written 5 books. The Journal of Awesome has outsold them all. I'm an author. You heard the announcement. I write words for a living, but the book I've written with no words in it has outsold all my other books. The researchers at the University of Texas who did this study titled it very interestingly. They called it, How Do I Love Thee? Let Me Count the Words. They found that couples in a relationship who journaled for 3 months were 50% more likely to stay together in their relationship after the 3-month mark. That's a very long relationship at the University of Texas. Or any college campus. I'm kidding. They also found that if you journal for 6 months and if you are someone with chronic neuromuscular pain, then you can reduce their pain medication by up to 50%. The power of journaling. I call it the 20-minute replay because your mind replays the positive experience. And if you read your own journal, you replay it a 3rd time. We all have fears. We all have fears, whether it's the marathon you want to run or the novel you want to write. For me, my biggest fear my whole life, and it's embarrassing to admit this, was swimming, okay? Totally afraid of swimming. I had ear infections my whole childhood, so I had tubes my whole childhood. I had to get special Vaseline and cotton balls and a cap just to have a bath, And no wonder I developed a fear of water, I guess. But I ruled it out of my life. I said to myself, you know what? I don't need to cross any bodies of water in my life. There's no major river I need to get on the other side of, or lake I need to cross. I'm good. At the pool party, I'll hang out by the barbecue. I'm happy. I don't even own a bathing suit. I ruled it out. I said, I don't need this stuff. And you know why? Because I didn't think I could do it. I didn't think I could swim. I didn't have the capability. And I didn't want to do it anyway, so I didn't have the motivation. And so I never did it. Those are the 2 steps we place. You can call them barriers if you want, before we do anything in our lives. They're the 2 barriers. Capability is called can do. Motivation is want to do. And then there's doing it, okay? We place those barriers in front of our lives. We place those barriers. But you know what happened? On my 2nd date with Leslie. 2nd date, right? So we already liked each other. We get to the 2nd date, and you know what she says? She says, do you like swimming? I was thinking, I don't want to tell her I can't swim. I was nervous and embarrassed about it, and I didn't know what to say, so I thought I'd just play it cool. I was like, not really. Hoping she'd just let it ride, She didn't let it ride. Instead, she said, this is what she said, actual words, I can still hear it in my ears. That's too bad. You see, swimming is my favorite thing to do in the world. I love swimming. I'm in the water all summer. In fact, my whole family has a cottage that's been in our family for generations, and it's on an island. And every single morning in the summer, the 20 of us, my 80-year-old grandparents, my 5-year-old cousins, we jump in the lake and we swim around the island. She says, I guess you can't come. So that night, without thinking about whether I could do it or whether I wanted to do it, I just did it. I went and signed up for the local adult learn to swim classes run by the city, which is kind of a risk for a few reasons at the downtown pool. I go that first week with my goggles on and my life jacket and walking out on the pool deck, And guess what's out there? 10 people who suck at swimming. None of us can swim. They're from landlocked countries. They've had more traumatic experiences than I have. We all sucked. Trust formed quickly, okay? So you know what they asked us to do? They said, hey guys, why don't you just keep your life jackets on, keep the goggles on. Here's a flutter board, an additional flotation device, and why don't you just walk around in the shallow end? I was up to my waist. I was okay, really? And they blew the whistle, and they're like, thanks, see you next week. I was that's it? Okay, I go back the next week. Guess what happens? They said, same thing as last week. Oh, maybe just inch your way towards the deep end a little bit. I'm that's it. After half an hour, they blow the whistle. Thanks, see you next week. After a couple weeks, I'm that's it. I can do that. That's not hard. And then the 3rd week, I'll tell you, I wanted to do it. This is only 8 weeks, these classes. It's only 8 weeks, 4 hours. I'm I've already done 2. Then I go back, and guess what? At the end of 8 weeks, which is just 4 hours of swimming lessons, I could do the front crawl. That summer, I swam around the island. Thank you. Then I said to myself, why didn't I do it for 30-something years? What was the barrier? Why didn't I just do it? It's so easy to do. What was stopping me all those years? And that's the thing about fear. They sit down here, right? We think you need to have the capability and the motivation before you do them. It's not true. We grow up thinking that motivation leads to action. But instead, action leads to motivation. Action leads to motivation. Let me say it one more way. Our brains can be our worst enemy sometimes. Sometimes it's easier to put it this way. How about it is easier to act yourself into a new way of thinking than to think yourself into a new way of acting, okay? Our heads get in our way. We don't try those things because we overthink them. But if we put action first, then capability and motivation follow. If you just do it, then you get it done. You know what? Don't just take it from me. Let's take it from the greatest physicist of all time, Isaac Newton. If you're remembered 500 years from now, you had a pretty cool life, okay? The man discovered gravity, invented calculus, and made the first ever working telescope. Pretty good resume. And you know what he said in his first law? I never remember this stuff from like grade 10 science, okay? But here's what he said. He said, an object in motion will remain in motion unless acted upon by an equal or greater force. Before then, everyone thought you needed the force first, then the action. But no, an object in motion will remain in motion. You start doing something, you'll continue. It's harder to stop. I started showering at night instead of the morning those days. I started meeting my wife for dinner beforehand. It became part of my routine. So you know what I did after the 8 weeks? I signed up again. Adult Learn to Swim 1. No, I didn't take Adult Learn to Swim 2, although I was qualified. I took Adult Learn to Swim 1. I took it 4 more times. I am not joking. I took it 4 more times because I loved it. It was harder to stop. And if any of you have had a gym routine for a while or a diet for a while or anything for a while, you know it's harder to stop once you get on the train. But just do it. I know what people say. They say, oh, Nike said that. You know what Nike did? They struck a nerve deep inside us. When they started using that slogan in the late 80s, they were a 23% market share company with $800 million of sales. Over the 10-year period they used that slogan heavily, they became a $10 billion company with 60% market share. If you just do it, then it's easier to get done.
And I think Matt said that we make an average of 25 decisions a day. Do you remember him saying that? I've done research on this too. It's in the happiness equation. My research shows that we make 295 decisions a day. What am I going to have for breakfast? Which way am I going to go for work? What do I want in my salad? What do I want in my hamburger? Where am I going to sit? Who am I going to go out for lunch with? It's endless. And those decisions create something called decision fatigue. Decision fatigue. You ever had to choose your wedding registry? It's fun in the morning. Yeah, we get to scan all this stuff. It's free. I want 10 glasses. I want 8. By the end of the day, you're exhausted. You're adding $300 ice makers that you don't need. And this is the problem, that when your decision-making energy is done, it's just done. There's only 2 ways to replenish it. One is sleep, the other is glucose, which is why at the front of the grocery store, after choosing from 30 kinds of salsa and 20 kinds of eggs, there's just a wall of sugar there. They put it there because all you can do is sleep or have sugar. It's the only way to replenish your energy, and you can't sleep in the express lane. So you grab a chocolate bar. Here's the solution. You need to eliminate choice from your day. Eliminate choice. Let me give you 3 examples. You know what I wear on stage for media interviews or speeches? This exact thing. These exact shoes. These exact banana socks.
They are cool socks.
Thank you.
Check out Neil's socks.
I bought multiple pairs. Because I've automated that decision. This decision of what to wear is out of my day. I don't make it. You know what I have for breakfast every morning? The same shake. The same exact shake. Water, 3 ice cubes, a banana, fruit. I know exactly because I don't think about it. I've eliminated it. You know how I get to and from work now? I don't know. I follow the Waze app. It tells me which way to go and which dark alley to drive down on the way home. I just follow it mindlessly. I feel like I'm a futuristic Uber car or something. But that's okay because I've eliminated choice. The solution for choice isn't navigating them. It's eliminating them. And the 3rd big secret is called the dream we all have that is completely wrong. You know what that dream is? It's the concept of retirement. Did you know retirement was invented out of the blue in 1889 in Germany when Chancellor Otto von Bismarck declared that anyone aged 65 or over could, if they wanted to, voluntarily leave the workforce? Why did he do that? You know why? Because there was a huge youth unemployment issue in Germany. And you know what the average lifespan was back then? 67. Penicillin wasn't invented for another 40 years. But by doing that, Chancellor von Bismarck created an arbitrary world standard for the age of 65. Today, we're living way longer, and we all want to retire earlier. But why? Leaving the workplace, leaving doing productive work actually robs us of the 4 S's. At work, we get social stimulation. We have the structure in our day, which affords us the ability to do creative work or whatever we want outside of it. We've got stimulation of learning new things, and we've got the story of being part of something bigger than ourselves. Losing social structure stimulation story is so costly and detrimental to our happiness, and that's why we should never retire. The healthiest societies on the planet actually don't even have a word for retirement. Take Okinawa, for example. National Geographic researchers discovered that literally nothing in their language describes the concept of stopping work completely. Instead, they have a word called ikigai, which roughly translates as the reason you get up in the morning. When you have an ikigai, you have a purpose in your day. And no matter what age you are, whether you're working for money or not, the point is you know what direction you're going when you open your eyes. And that leads to happiness. 5 gratitudes. 5 gratitudes. Professors Emmons and McCullough found that if you write down 5 things you are grateful for at the end of the week, you're happier after a 10-week period and you're physically healthier. They compared it to people who had written down hassles and had written down events. Yeah. Last time I gave this speech, a woman put up her hand. She said, I think I'm doing that at my house, but I'm not sure. So can you check? I said, yeah, what are you doing? She said, well, I got a bit of a grouchy husband. I got 3 teenage boys. So every night at the dinner table, I pound my fist on the table, the forks go flying, and I say, this is an intervention. I want everyone here to go around the room and say one good thing about your day. 2 minutes later, we're all a bit happier. Is that what the study says, Neil? And I said, no. Weren't you listening to me? The study is 5 gratitudes a week. If you're doing 5 gratitudes a night on your dinner table, that's 35 a week. It's a 700% increase on the minimum effective dose. You OD'd. You're too happy. My point is it's easy. If you want to make it even easier, you can play a game right before you turn off the lights with your partner, with your family member. It's called Rose, Rose, Thorn, Bud. Your partner says a rose from the day, a gratitude. You say one back. He says, another rose. You say one back. They say a thorn, just something that didn't go well. Get it off your chest. You don't want to sleep on a problem. And then you finish with a bud, which is something you're looking forward to. Rose, rose, thorn, bud. I'll tell you, as long as that thorn doesn't turn into a 45-minute argument, it's a great 2-minute exercise to get in your gratitudes.
For the closing thought, I want to take you all the way back to my parents coming to Canada. Now, I don't know what it would feel like coming to a new country when you're in your mid-20s. I don't know because I never did it. But I would imagine that it would take a great attitude. I would imagine that you'd have to be pretty aware of your surroundings and appreciating the small wonders that you're starting to see in your new world. And I think you'd have to be really authentic. You'd have to be really true to yourself in order to get through what you're being exposed to. I'd like to pause my TED Talk for about 10 seconds right now because you don't get many opportunities in life to do something like this, and my parents are sitting in the front row, so I want to ask them to, if you don't mind, stand up, and I want to say thank you to you guys. When I was growing up, my dad used to love telling the story of his first day in Canada. And it's a great story because what happened was he got off the plane at the Toronto airport and he was welcomed by a non-profit group, which I'm sure someone in this room runs. And this non-profit group had a big welcoming lunch for all the new immigrants to Canada. And my dad says he got off the plane and he went to this lunch and there was this huge spread. There was bread. There was those little mini dill pickles There was olives, those little white onions. There was rolled up turkey cold cuts, rolled up ham cold cuts, rolled up roast beef cold cuts, and little cubes of cheese. There was tuna salad sandwiches and egg salad sandwiches and salmon salad sandwiches. There was lasagna. There was casseroles. There was brownies. There was butter tarts. And there was pies, lots and lots of pies. And when my dad tells the story, he says, the craziest thing was I'd never seen any of that before except bread. I didn't know what was meat, what was vegetarian. I was eating olives with pie. You know, I just couldn't believe how many things you can get here. When I was 5 years old, my dad used to take me grocery shopping, and he would stare and wonder at the little stickers that are on the fruits and vegetables. He would say, look, can you believe they have a mango here from Mexico? They've got an apple here from South Africa. Can you believe they got a date from Morocco? He's like, do you know where Morocco even is? And I'd say, I'm 5. I don't even know where I am. Is this A&P? And he'd say, I don't know where Morocco is either. Well, let's find out. And so we'd buy the date, and we'd go home, and we'd actually take an atlas off the shelf, and we'd flip through it until we found this mysterious country. And when we did, my dad would say, can you believe someone climbed a tree over there, picked this thing off it, put it in a truck, drove it all the way to the docks, and then sailed it all the way across the Atlantic Ocean, and then put it in another truck and drove that all the way to a tiny grocery store just outside our house so that they could sell it to us for 25 cents. And I said, I don't believe that. And he's like, I don't believe it either. Things are amazing. There's just so many things to be happy about. And when I stopped to think about it, he's absolutely right. There are so many things to be happy about. We are, the only species on the only life-giving rock in the entire universe that we've ever seen capable of experiencing so many of these things. I mean, we're the only ones with architecture and agriculture. We're the only ones with jewelry and democracy. We've got airplanes, highway lanes, interior design and horoscope signs. We've got fashion magazines, house party scenes. You can watch a horror movie with monsters. You can go to a concert and hear guitars jamming. We've got books, buffets, and radio waves, wedding brides, and roller coaster rides. You can sleep in clean sheets. You can go to the movies and get good seats. You can smell bakery air, walk around with rain hair, pop bubble wrap, or take an illegal nap. And that's why I believe that if you live your life with a great attitude, choosing to move forward and move on whenever life deals you a blow, living with a sense of awareness of the world around you, embracing your inner 3-year-old and seeing the tiny joys that make life so sweet, and being authentic to yourself, being you and being cool with that, letting your heart lead you and putting yourself in experiences that satisfy you, then I think you'll live a life that is rich and is satisfying. And I think you'll live a life that is truly awesome. Thank you.